All right, so get this. We're diving deep into an urban legend this time. It's one of those stories that Hollywood keeps coming back to. I mean, they've made multiple movies about it. The Philadelphia Experiment, vanishing ships, sailors fused to metal. I mean, it's the kind of story that makes you wonder, you know how much of science fiction is closer to reality than we think?
Yeah.
And we've got some pretty interesting research here, even some firsthand accounts. So let's see if we can separate fact from fiction and try to figure out what really happened, or at least what we KNOW happened. Okay, so to understand how some of the greatest minds of the 20th century, I'm talking Einstein, Tesla, von Neumann, to understand how they all got tied up in this whole thing, well, we need to rewind a little bit. Back to World War II.
Exactly. Picture this. The 1940s war is raging, and the U.S. Navy is in a tough spot. I mean, their ships are just sitting ducks out there, easy targets for enemy radar and those new magnetic mines. Invisibility, as crazy as it sounds, what would have been the ultimate weapon?
Okay, yeah, I could see that. High stakes, definitely. So they'd be willing to try almost anything. Right. But where does this Einstein's unified field theory fit into this? That sounds pretty complex. It's this idea, right, that all forces in the universe, gravity, electromagnetism, all of it, could be explained for just one framework. It's kind of like how all colors, you can imagine, come from mixing just the primary colors.
Right, exactly. And while Einstein's theory, well, it wasn't complete, it opened up some pretty incredible possibilities. Like the idea that if you could control electromagnetism, you could control ANY physical phenomenon, invisibility, teleportation. It all seemed possible, at least in theory.
So, okay, if you're the Navy and you want invisibility, who do you call?
Yeah.
Ghostbusters. No, but seriously, this is where Tesla comes in. I mean, this is the guy who practically invented electromagnetism. Yeah. When the Navy launches Project Rainbow in '42, Tesla is the obvious choice.
Oh, absolutely. Tesla was a visionary. But he was also super cautious. Some might even say a perfectionist. And here's where things get interesting. When he starts doing these experiments for the project, well, he encounters some unsettling side effects. Things that went way beyond expectations. He begs the Navy for more time, more research. But with the war going on, they wanted results fast.
Wait, so what kind of side effects are we even talking about here? Did Tesla leave any clues behind in his notes or anything?
Well, that's part of the story. You see, when Tesla died, the FBI, they confiscated all his research. What they found is still mostly classified, but there are all sorts of rumors about strange phenomena, potential health risks, even mental disturbances. Some people think Tesla stumbled onto something huge, something far more dangerous than just invisibility.
Okay, now this is where it gets spooky. You get this brilliant scientist who was way ahead of his time, working on a top secret project. He encounters these unexplained phenomena, and then bam, he dies mysteriously. It's like a conspiracy theorist's dream come true. So what happens to Project Rainbow after Tesla's gone? Does the Navy just give up?
Not quite. They were determined to keep going. So they put together this new team, a real all-star lineup of scientific minds. Einstein again, von Neumann, Thomas Townsend Brown. Talk about pressure. These guys had to pick up where Tesla left off. And they had a tight deadline with the whole war effort depending on them.
All right, so you've got this dream team, a ticking clock, and this crazy ambitious goal. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, that's a question we're going to explore in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll dig into the alleged experiment itself, the chilling stories from survivors, and all those persistent rumors of a cover-up. Buckle up, because things are about to get weird.
Right. Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Welcome back. So last time we left off with this top secret project, right? This team of brilliant minds and a whole lot of unanswered questions. Did they actually pull off this invisibility thing?
Okay, so the story goes like this. August 12th, 1943, at the Philadelphia Naval Yard. They're putting this destroyer, the USS Eldridge, to the test. It's outfitted with all kinds of electromagnetic gadgets. And what happens next? Well, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi novel.
Yeah, this is the part where the ship just vanishes, right? Into thin air. That's insane. What does the research say about that?
Eyewitness accounts are pretty wild. They describe these intense lights, this strange green fog around the ship. And then, poof, the Eldridge is just gone. From the Philadelphia harbor?
Wait, so are we talking invisibility here, or is it something else, like maybe teleportation?
That's where it gets even weirder. See, there's this other account from a merchant ship, the SS Andrew Furuseth. That was sailing near Norfolk, Virginia, hundreds of miles away. The crew claims they saw a destroyer. It looked exactly like the Eldridge, just appear out of nowhere, surrounded by that same green fog, and then it vanished, just as quickly as it appeared.
Okay, so if this isn't just some made-up story, how could a ship possibly teleport? And what about all that stuff we talked about with Tesla? His concerns about those side effects, are they connected to this somehow?
Well, remember Einstein's unified field theory. That idea that maybe if you could control electromagnetism, you could control all kinds of physical phenomena. Some people think Tesla might have stumbled onto something much bigger than anyone expected. Maybe the electromagnetic fields from his coils, combined with the Navy's modifications. Maybe they somehow warped space-time. And that caused the Eldridge to jump to a different location.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to understand this. So the ship didn't become invisible. It just kind of jumped from one place to another.
That's one theory. But here's the really disturbing part. When the Eldridge reappeared in Philadelphia, well, it wasn't a smooth arrival. We're talking fires, equipment malfunctions. And the worst part, there are reports of crew members with horrific injuries. Some were badly burned, others completely disappeared. There were even stories about sailors fused to the metal of the ship.
Wow, that's pretty gruesome. Are there any records of what the crew experienced, the ones that survived? I mean,
There are some accounts, but they're pretty fragmented and contradictory. Some talk about this intense white light, incredible pressure, losing track of time. Can you imagine the trauma, the disorientation, the terror, even if you ignore the more outlandish parts of the story?
it's like something out of a nightmare.
Yeah.
You sign up to serve your country,
Uh-huh.
and you end up in this messed up science experiment. It really makes you think about the ethics of all this,
Yeah.
especially during wartime. So after this awful incident, did the Navy just scrap the project?
Well, this is where the official story gets a little fuzzy. The Navy denies that the Philadelphia experiment ever took place, but those rumors, they just keep swirling around, fueled by missing logs, classified documents, and those eyewitness accounts. Some people even say the experiment was a success, at least in terms of showing that teleportation might actually be possible.
Hold on, a success with all those casualties and those horrible side effects. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, think about it strategically. Teleportation, if you could control it. It would be an even bigger game changer than invisibility. It would revolutionize warfare logistics. Everything. Maybe the Navy, despite the disastrous outcome, saw the potential and decided to keep pushing forward. Maybe just a bit more carefully this time.
This whole thing is so strange. Vanishing ships, teleporting destroyers. A possible government cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that whole thing about Tesla and the potential mind-altering effects. It's like trying to put together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Speaking of missing pieces, this is where things get even stranger. With this guy named Carl Allen, or Carlos Allende as he sometimes called himself, he claimed to have seen the whole Philadelphia experiment from the deck of that other ship, the Andrew Furuseth.
That's right. Allende reached out to a UFO researcher named Morris Jessup back in the 1950s, claiming that he'd witnessed the experiment firsthand, and he was warning people about the dangers. He sent Jessup these long, rambling letters, full of technical jargon and wild claims about mind control and beams from other dimensions. It was all really cryptic and hard to understand. But Jessup just couldn't shake this feeling that there might be something to it.
Allende sounds like a pretty interesting character. But why would he wait over a decade to tell his story? And what was it about his claims that convinced Jessup to take him seriously?
Well, that's a question we're going to explore in part 3 of this deep dive. We'll also look into the mysteries surrounding Jessup's death and the lasting legacy of the Philadelphia experiment.
All right, so we're back and we've got this whole Philadelphia experiment thing going on, vanishing ships, teleportation theories. And now we've got this guy, Carl Allen, saying he saw the whole thing. What's the deal with this guy? And why did his story grab the attention of that UFO researcher, Morris Jessup?
Well, Allende's letters were all over the place. Technical jargon, conspiracy theories, claims about mind control, other dimensions. He even suggested that UFOs could be tied to the Philadelphia experiment somehow, like it was some unintended consequence.
Okay, so this guy was obviously pretty out there, but something about his story must have clicked with Jessup. What was it?
Jessup was skeptical at first, but then Allende sends him this annotated copy of Jessup's own book on UFOs. It's full of handwritten notes in different colors, diagrams, references to some secret language, like only certain people could understand it.
This sounds like a spy movie or something. A secret code, a hidden society. This conspiracy that goes deeper than anyone thought. But what did these annotations actually say? Was there anything in there to back up Allende's claims?
Well, that's the problem. They were really hard to decode. It was this mix of scientific terms, philosophy, even ancient mythology. Some researchers think they might hold clues to the real Philadelphia experiment. Others think it's just the ramblings of a delusional guy.
So we've got a mystery witness, these weird annotations, and the Navy keeps denying everything. It's no wonder the Philadelphia experiment became a breeding ground for all these conspiracy theories. But then things get even darker with Jessup's death in '59.
Yeah, it was ruled a suicide found dead in his car. But the details are kind of suspicious. He had apparently told some friends that he was getting close to finding proof of the Philadelphia experiment, and he was supposed to meet with someone from the Navy to talk about it.
Hold on. So he dies right when he's about to go public with this potentially explosive information. That seems awfully convenient. Did anyone look into his death further?
There were investigations, but they stuck with the suicide ruling. But a lot of people believe Jessup might have been silenced to keep him from revealing what he knew. It just adds another layer to this whole mystery.
This is where I get lost. We've got the secret experiment, vanishing ships, the side effects that mess with your mind, a mysterious witness, cryptic messages, a researcher dying under suspicious circumstances. It's like every conspiracy theory trope rolled into one. But let's take a step back for a second and look at the science. If we entertain the possibility that something really weird happened on that ship, is there any way to explain it rationally?
Well, remember we talked about Einstein's unified field theory, and the idea that you might be able to manipulate those electromagnetic fields to influence space-time. Some physicists have thought about this. They say that the electromagnetic fields from Tesla's coils, combined with what the Navy did, maybe they created some kind of distortion in space-time.
It's like a warp bubble, like in Star Trek.
It sounds far-fetched, but it's not completely impossible according to physics. There's this concept called wormholes. They're like shortcuts through space-time. Some scientists think you could create or activate these wormholes by manipulating electromagnetic fields, and that would allow for instant travel between 2 points.
So maybe the Eldridge didn't actually disappear. Maybe it just went through a wormhole for a second, traveled a huge distance instantly, and then reappeared somewhere else.
That's one possibility. But then there are those reports of sailors fused to the ship. The mental disturbances, the rumors of mind control. It's hard to square those things with a purely scientific explanation.
True. Which takes us back to Alinda's claims about mind control in other dimensions. What if the Philadelphia experiment wasn't just about messing with physical stuff? What if it was about affecting consciousness, perception, even reality itself?
Now, that's a whole other conversation. It takes us into parapsychology, psychic phenomena, the idea that our minds can interact with forces we don't understand.
This is where my brain starts to fry. So we're talking cutting-edge physics, top-secret government programs, and the mysteries of human consciousness all mixed together. It's kind of exciting and scary at the same time. So where do we end up after all this? Did the Philadelphia experiment happen? Did a ship really teleport? Was there mind manipulation involved? Or is it all just a big hoax, a story that's gotten twisted over time?
I wish I had a clear answer. But the truth is, we just don't know. The Philadelphia experiment is a puzzle with missing pieces. It's this historical enigma that keeps people debating and speculating. And maybe that's part of what makes it so fascinating. It makes us question what we know, how we perceive things, and whether there are forces out there that we're just starting to understand.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Even if we never know for sure what happened, the story itself shows how much we're drawn to the unknown, our desire to push the limits of science, and to question what we're told is the truth. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Philadelphia experiment, and I'm left feeling a sense of wonder, a little bit of unease, and a lot of unanswered questions, but maybe that's all right. Sometimes the most interesting mysteries are the ones that stay unsolved. They challenge us to keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep imagining. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, keep searching for the truth.